Hello Bloomington, I'm Mayor Tim Bussey and this is the Council Minute for the week of April 26th. This week, the City Council continued Bloomington's long tradition of leadership on public health issues and especially its leadership in protecting youth against the harms of tobacco products by taking bold and innovative policy action. The Council voted to prohibit the sale of all flavored tobacco products, including menthol, and to sunset the availability of new tobacco retail licenses in the city, effectively reducing the number of retailers over several years. Flavored tobacco products will no longer be available in Bloomington after January 1st, 2022, and the licensing changes will go into effect on June 30th, 2022. So why did we do all this? We all know that the harms of tobacco use impacts our entire community, and the science on the harmful effects of tobacco products is indisputable. It's also indisputable that the tobacco industry has targeted young people, because the evidence shows that if you don't start smoking in your teenage years, you're not likely to ever be a smoker. Over the last 20 years, tobacco prevention efforts have made historic gains in reducing youth tobacco use. This trend started going in the wrong direction in recent years as flavored tobacco products and flavored e-cigarettes in particular flooded our communities. Kids are especially drawn to flavored tobacco products as a means to start smoking. In Minnesota, 78% of high school and middle school students reported that the first tobacco they ever tried was flavored. Additionally, 70% of youth who use e-cigarettes reported signs of dependence. The data showed flavored tobacco products are hooking an entire generation on tobacco. Removing these products from our stores and eliminating them from teens' social circles will reduce the number of youth who ever start smoking. The impact of this work will be felt for generations. Youth in Bloomington will grow up in a community free of tobacco products that mimic candy and sugary drinks, where there are fewer tobacco shops on their way to school, and where they will be exposed to far fewer advertisements for these youth-appealing products. This work also directly builds on the City Council's resolution a couple of months ago, declaring that racism is a public health crisis. For decades, the tobacco industry has intentionally pushed menthol products into communities of color, and the result has been some terrible health disparities. Eliminating these products from our entire community will help to advance health equity. Bloomington isn't alone in eliminating flavored tobacco products from the market. Several other states and communities have done the same thing. But our city will be leading the nation in reducing youth tobacco use by sunsetting tobacco retail license in our community. Retailers who currently have a license to sell tobacco products will be able to renew those licenses as long as they remain in business and they continue to meet the requirements to receive a license. And if the business is family-owned and is passed to a spouse or a child, the ordinance has an exemption to allow the family to continue operating with the license. However, licenses are not otherwise transferable if a business is sold or moves. The goal of the delayed effective dates of this ordinance was to give business owners time to plan. The January 1st effective date for flavored products gives retailers time to sell their existing inventory. And the licensing changes don't take effect for more than a year, which gives retailers ample time to plan their long-term business strategy. In fact, we listened to business owners during the public hearing and delayed this effective date in response to their concerns. But the primary concern for the City Council in adopting this ordinance is the health and well-being of Bloomington residents, especially those who have been targeted by the tobacco industry. Just as the City of Bloomington did nearly 20 years ago when we were the first city in the state to prohibit smoking in bars and restaurants, this action makes Bloomington the first city in the state to say tobacco will not be sold in our community. And that's an important and bold step forward for community health. One of the messages we hear from residents is how much you appreciate the parks and open spaces in Bloomington. For the last several years, we have been making reinvestments in our park system to make sure they continue to be safe, attractive, and welcoming places for our neighbors to hang out, our kids to play, and for everyone to enjoy outdoor living. One of the signature pieces of our park system is the Dred Scott Playfields. Dred Scott was built more than 40 years ago and is an important local and regional facility. The Playfields host at least 15 youth and adult tournaments throughout the summer months, including Fireman's, Bloomington Bash, and state tournaments for various associations. Dred Scott is also the main home to Bloomington's adult softball leagues, which serves approximately 2,500 players throughout the year. The park includes other amenities too, such as tennis, volleyball, basketball, a playground, walking trails, and more. In 2019, the city began the replacement of the Wheelhouse building, the building right in the middle of all the ball fields. The old Wheelhouse was in rough shape, and the new Wheelhouse is a much better facility for concessions, storage, and it includes fully accessible bathrooms. This project was also the start of badly needed electrical upgrades to address operations, safety, and efficiency of the field lighting. The poles that hold the field lighting are well past their useful life and need to be replaced. We also need to do work on the tennis courts and trails, and we need to upgrade the reader board sign, which right now is still maintained manually by staff. At our meeting this week, the City Council authorized a contract for the replacement of old light poles around the 4 wheel fields and the concessions building at fields 8, 9, 10, and 11. Additional improvements planned for this summer include replacing old netting and fencing, rebuilding the tennis courts, and installing an electronic reader board sign. The park maintenance team is improving the volleyball courts with new sand, and trail improvements are planned for 2023 as part of our annual pavement management program. The investments we're making at Dred Scott are part of our larger effort over the past 5 years to update and modernize a park system that includes more than 90 parks, miles and miles of trails, and great open spaces. More work is coming, and you'll hear more about it in the next couple of months when the City Council receives the final report and recommendations in our Park System Master Plan. Bloomington's park system is one of the best things about living in Bloomington. We are committed to making sure that our parks continue to be valued amenities for years to come. On Monday night, the City Council approved a resolution supporting a grant application from the Minnesota Investment Fund for a Bloomington business called SICK. The state of Minnesota makes loans to companies in Minnesota who are looking to expand and retain jobs here in the state. The state program allows the loan to be forgiven if the company meets its job growth commitment. And it's a really good way to incentivize businesses to stay and to grow in Minnesota. Now, SICK may not be a familiar name to you. The company, which is officially called SICK Sensors, is named after the company founder, Erwin Sick of Germany. They've been in Bloomington since 1997, and their operation here is the North American headquarters for the company, which is based ultimately in Germany. Now, SICK designs, builds, and sells intelligent sensors and related products that are used by many businesses around the world, from shipping and logistical companies to autonomous vehicles. In addition to 2 locations here in Bloomington, SICK has a production and logistical operation down in Savage. In 2018, SICK began a search for a 20-acre site to consolidate all of its operations into one campus, either here in Minnesota or elsewhere. The City of Bloomington owns 14 acres of developable land in the South Loop, which we bought following construction of the new runway at the airport with the hopes of redevelopment. The Port Authority marketed the 14-acre site to SICK, and we pitched a plan to use public funding to mitigate the size difference between the 20 acres that SICK wanted and the 14 acres that the city had by building parking structures that would be built in phases as SICK expands. With a central location in the metro, proximity to the airport and to hotels, and the availability of transit, including light rail, SICK saw the benefits of having their business in the South Loop, and they ultimately decided to choose Bloomington as the permanent location of their North American headquarters. The development agreements were finalized last October, and these agreements provide for the land to be sold to SICK and the parking built by the Port Authority. The first phase is 120,000 square feet of office, production, and logistics. The second phase will be built within 5 years and adds a multi-story office building that will be between 100 and 150,000 square feet. In total, the project will cost around $100 million over 4 phases and will be more than 500,000 square feet. The City Council will be considering the land use approvals for this project at its meeting on May 3rd, and assuming no hiccups in the process, closing on the first phase is set to happen in May, with a groundbreaking in June of this year. Bloomington was interested in this project because it delivered on a number of the city's strategic goals and the mission of the South Loop District Plan. It adds diversity to the tax base and adds good-paying jobs to Bloomington with a median wage of $83,600. This is exactly the kind of business that we need in Bloomington. And working with our partners at the state of Minnesota, we were able to keep this business in Bloomington and in Minnesota. We look forward to the continued partnership with SICK as they build and expand the Bloomington South Loop District. That's a wrap on this week's Council Minute. I hope to see you again next week. Until then, stay safe, Bloomington.